Hello and welcome to What the Tech from Boast AI, where we talk with some of the brilliant minds behind new and exciting shred initiatives to learn what it takes to tackle technological uncertainty and eventually change the world. Today, I'm thrilled to have a pair of guests on the show to talk about the larger Canadian startup ecosystem and specifically FounderFuel, a 4-month accelerator program that partners founders with insightful mentors, intensive networking, and expert coaching, culminating in Canada's biggest demo day, taking place this year on July 11th. At the heart of FounderFuel is the expertise offered by Real Ventures, Canada's leading early-stage VC firm dedicated to serving entrepreneurs and nurturing the communities where we thrive. Here to discuss both are Real Ventures partner and FounderFuel general manager, Katy Yam, as well as Real Ventures director of marketing and people and FounderFuel's program manager, Lisa Séguin. Katy and Lisa, welcome to the show.
Oh, thank you for having us. Really excited to be here, Paul.
Yeah, thanks, Paul. I'm super happy to be here.
Awesome. I'm so happy to have you both. So before we dive into all the work that goes into running a successful accelerator program, I'd love to kick off by learning more about each of you. Katy, could you tell us a little bit about your background? Where are you based and when and why did you get into the VC place in the first place?
Sure. Of course, I think VC is not a space that I particularly thought I would be ending up in initially. But yeah, I think I'll start with, I'm a partner at Real Ventures. I run the pre-seed and fund dedicated in everything to do with the accelerator and also first kind of checks into companies. So we do $200,000 to $400,000 checks, following on up to $1 million. And before that, I was at Elemented AI. So some people know that as Canada's leading AI company. I was there for just under 3 years, and our Series A was 137 million, and our Series B was 200 million. So it's a pretty big splash in 2017 when AI was hitting. Before that, I spent 8 years in casino gambling. So I ran casino and slot operations, and I did new product management, product development, and business intel. And prior to that, I spent 8 years running white bread across Canada. So really, really varied. So 19 production field facilities there. And since 2013, I run also TEDx Montreal, which is TED Talks in our city. So that's kind of my background in a 30-second nutshell. Over to you, Lisa.
Yeah, I'll share my background as well. So at Real Ventures, I'm the director of people and marketing there. So I take care of our communications, a lot of our campaigns running there, as well as all of our internal processes for our employees at the firm. I've been there for about 2.5 years now, actually. And I'm here because of Katy, actually. I used to work with her at Element AI before that. I was heading up our marketing activities for our insurance offering there, working with a really great team there over the course of 3.5 years. And Katy was our director of marketing at the time when I joined initially at Element AI. And prior to that, I used to work in education. So I worked for a tutoring company where I would service all of the different schools that we had different offerings with. Outside of work, I have 3 children, 2 dogs, 2 cats, babysitting a guinea pig. So we have a zoo pretty much that we run over here. Yeah, that's a little bit.
Your neighbors have chickens.
Background. Yeah, neighbor just got chickens. So now the dog's barking at the chickens. It's really interesting coming over to my house. People are like, what's happening here? And I'm like, I don't know.
We're on the island. She's off the island. This is the difference of Montreal.
Yes, welcome to Séguin.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Montreal's an island for a lot of people who don't know, just in case.
That's too cool. We are the default dog babysitters in my friend group, so I can relate. We don't have any pets in-house here, but I totally know what it's like. Adding the guinea pig on doesn't seem like a lot, but it can change the game a little bit. So that's awesome to hear both of you. So diving into it, I know that you mentioned that, Lisa, you came to Real Ventures because of Katy. You had worked together in a past life. That's how a lot of the connections at Boast have happened too. I had mentioned before the call, I had worked with my manager at a different company and I loved what they were doing here at Boast. And that's why I came along for the ride. And I think that's something that we hear across the Canadian ecosystem and just the tech ecosystem generally, regardless of the US or Canada. And I just love hearing stories like that because it's something that I can relate to personally. But diving deeper into Real Ventures specifically, could you tell me a little bit more about kind of what your focus areas are? Who are you folks beyond Katy and Lisa and the kind of companies you've worked with to date?
Sure. I'll take a stab at this. So FounderFuel is accelerator run by Real Ventures. So I'll just clarify that up front. Real Ventures was founded in 2007 by three partners, John Stokes, J.S. Cournoyer, and Alan McIntosh. So we're one of Canada's oldest VC firms. And so since then, we've run 5 active funds, 325 million under management. And our focus is actually quite broad. It's general tech. So we have from deep tech right now, we've got investments in quantum, we've got investments in AI. So one of the first theses in 2016 was about AI coming. And as you have seen, in Montreal has become quite the epicenter of AI. So we've been deeply invested in that for quite some time. We also have Sam Hafar, who is a partner who is really dedicated into retail. So he leads like Majuri and also Sonder, which are not only portfolio companies of ours, but also FounderFuel alumni. Most recently, we have BenchSci, which is in drug discovery. So we have quite a broad early stage coverage. So we really cover seed and pre-seed investments. And we also brought, like, say, Techstars into Canada the first 3 years that they came. We partnered with them. So really thinking about the genesis and the origin story, which I love, is very much like the partner said, like, why does all this good talent have to go to the Valley to get funded? Why don't we keep that talent here and get them funded here? And that's really the genesis of how Real started. And what I love most is not just the funding, but also the community. So in Montreal, one of the epicenters is Notman House. And across the country, they just really invested a lot of time. And that's what attracted me to come. It's really about community and elevating not just capital, but making sure that the founders and everyone around has a very good ecosystem like they have in the Valley. So that's really what, but some of our biggest investments include, like, like 10 Store and Xanadu. There's also League. There's just like an endless, we have over, a couple hundred portfolio companies, and they've all done, many of them have done exceptionally well. So Paper was a company that came out of FounderFuel, in addition to also being one of our greatest portfolio companies. So the list goes on our website. You can see them, quite a few.
No, that's fantastic. And again, those names, some of those are household names now. I listen to a lot of podcasts, and Majuri, for instance, that popped out at me. They've sponsored a few that I've listened to in the past. So that's very, very cool to hear. Before I move on, Lisa, did you have anything you want to add in there?
Yeah, I think Katy did a great summary. I guess one other element that I would add that I love about working at Real Ventures, and what's part of our DNA at the firm too, is really a strong focus on founder development, focusing on developing inner awareness and being able to level up from a mental perspective and developing that fortitude required in order to be able to scale a business. And so that's something that we're quite passionate about at the firm, and we're pretty active in the community about as well. We have monthly events taking place, one called Survive the Drive, that take place at Notman House every third Wednesday of the month. So I think that's a great reflection of just that value being put into the community. And I think another element that's really speaks to me as well is just our work with Rep Matters too, with Phil Joseph Gagnon, who is the co-founder of that and who works here as an associate at Real Ventures. We also host monthly events called the Rep Matters Breakfast events that are geared towards Black founders or creatives or investors who are looking to build network within the community, gain insights from, speaking to each other in groups. So those are monthly events that take place that really, I think, are great contributors towards elevating the community, becoming more inclusive, and really seeing a community that's reflective of the Canadian population.
That is so cool. So it's so much more than just providing the capital and providing that funding to give them their runway. It's coaching. It's making sure that they have the mentorship that they need, the support, the access to similar kinds of founders who are at the right stage as well, and who can kind of give them that extra lift beyond just, here's the funding, here's the growth. That's so cool. I actually also love Survive the Drive. That's an awesome name. I'd love to pick your brain a little bit more about how you guys came up to that and what actually gets discussed at these events. Is there anything you could tell me there?
Yeah, I feel like that's almost another episode with John Stokes, who's our managing partner, who can really talk to you about the genesis of these events that came to be. But essentially, the essence is talking about just the emotional ups and downs that come with building a company. Each gathering focuses on a specific theme. If I'm not mistaken, the last one was focused on imposter syndrome and burnout. So these are themes that are explored. And during those sessions, there are 3 co-hosts. All 3 of their names are eluding me. There's Andy Morrow, there's John, and Robina, thank you, Katy, who are co-hosting these events. And they're pretty open. So folks are invited to share their experience throughout the event. So it's meant to be more of a conversation, an intimate conversation around founders, really focused on themes that they are all experiencing throughout their founder journey. And the objective is to create this sense of community, this safe space where folks can share these ups and downs and be able to learn from each other and grow with each other, and really support each other.
That's incredible. And I love that it's open. So it's not necessarily anything that like you have to, there's no barrier to entry if you want to go learn more about all of this per se. It's really there for the community to take advantage of. That's great.
I'm sure there's
100%.
a friend DA in place when you were there, but but I think generally it's for everyone to feel that they can have a place to. And I know some founders, and they pop in initially out of curiosity, but then now it's been their new religion in the way that they can't miss these once a month. It's just a place where they can actually let their guard down. Because often as founders, you have a lot to uphold, not a facade, but like a lot of expectation, and just to have a place where you can talk about the hardships is quite a great resource to have in the community.
Absolutely. And I'm not going to derail us too much further in the Survive the Drive direction.
Sure.
Just out of curiosity, how long has this been going? How long have you had these events going on? Just because I know during the pandemic, there was a real need for this community. And I know a lot of them kind of hit pause over that stretch of time. When did you guys relaunch all of this?
Yeah, I would say that Survive the Drive and even Rep Matters Breakfast Clubs are just the latest iterations in these types of community events that Real Ventures has been doing since their first days. There have been different versions of these events, different names that were given to them, but essentially community has always been in our DNA, and it's hard to be present in the community without being present in the community. And that means organizing these events. So I know that breakfasts have been something that have been a standard at Real Ventures in the early days. There have been different iterations. I remember at one point someone was saying that we had an associate who was organizing monthly basketball events for founders to join. I've had numerous cocktails, hours after hours at Notman House over the years as well. So it was painful during COVID for a lot of folks to see these events kind of dry up and not be able to connect on that level as a community anymore. And once all of these restrictions were lifted, it just felt so natural to revert back to what we felt is something that we bring to the community, and that's bringing a place of gathering for folks to get together and to be able to share their founder stories, share the ups and downs of there, and really be able to make these kind of creative collisions on site as well, and be able to meet other founders who maybe be able to support them in whether it's a project or collaboration. And sometimes it's not sponsored, sometimes it's not founders, sometimes it's service providers or clients who they meet over there. So it's really an opportunity to gather, to network, and to build connections within the ecosystem.
That's fantastic. I love creative collision. Anytime you can make that happen, it's a win. So that seems like the perfect segue to now start talking about FounderFuel specifically, because this is another proof in practice of your guys' building a community. Tell me, who dreamt up the accelerator in the first place? Is accelerator the right word to use to describe FounderFuel, I guess? And just what are the goals for FounderFuel this year and in the past?
Sure. I think, again, in the line of why do people need to go down to Y Combinator and 500 startups and Techstars in the US, I think John and back in the day, Ian Jeffries, who's the first general manager of FounderFuel in 2011. So we started that in 2011. This is our 14th cohort in progress right now. It's very funny because 2020, when COVID hit, it was lucky 13. So it was just like a very funny, ironic situation. But yeah, so Ian and John started that in 2011. Exactly for the same purposes, like, hey, how do we do something homebred, and how do we make sure that? So it's a 3-month accelerator at the time, and it was really helping founders kind of put together their product roadmap, put together the pitching, understanding how VC works, how does the venture capital model, how does the funding, how does the growth, how does all of that structure work? And it became the only and the most revered program. It's the most longstanding one now. And as we see now, there's tons of incubators and accelerators and venture studios and all of those things. So a quick description, I would say, like, venture studios or like matching programs will help put founders together and ideas together. Incubators are really that. There's like a genesis of an idea, and they're just going to incubate that into something that's hopefully more propice or conducive to actually starting a business. So some of them start in incubators. Accelerators are really where you put the gas, like, it's the engine's in the car and it's like ready to go, and you step on the gas and it can go to 0 to 100. And that's really what we're doing. So it's less about the ideation and the genesis piece of it. It's really about refining. So like, you have some early traction, you have an MVP, a viable product, and you have some early testers of customers. And then we're really working on 4 pillars, which is the product roadmap, making sure that is consistent with your go-to-market plan. So who is your ICP, your target customer, and really narrowing that down, and then getting in your financials. So the financials are like, what's your business model? How do you get to profitability, or how does it even work? And then lastly, second part of financials is making sure you have enough runway, meaning you have enough time to like invest in the people that you need to help build that business. So those are really the pillars that we work on, an accelerator, and specifically ours. And then we've layered in. So when I came on board, we changed it from 3 months to 4 months. And, I was hired very much along the same lines of like where the firm was heading towards, much more of a founder development, as Lisa had mentioned. So we were really starting in conscious leadership. That was like 2016, 2017. And then when I came in, it was really about the founder development and, meeting founders where they are and getting into this like underlying psychosis of like, how do we create stable and resilient mindsets? Because we know historically that most founders, most problems in startups are founder problems, and the breakups that happen are, communication issues. Sounds really basic, but so we work with founders to deal with the setbacks, to deal with the mentor whiplash, to like learn the skills and dial into that insight of their instincts. And that's really where FounderFuel is now. It's an evolution of, I think, the community focus. And that's why I'm very about community and building high performing, sustainable businesses over long term. So that's FounderFuel, and we've had over 105, 110 now, I think, companies come through the program. So we've got some, as I mentioned, some really, like the first exit or the biggest one that we knew was like Unsplash that sold to Getty. So when people use Unsplash, it's like also there. And I think a lot of people are surprised when they hear Majuri and Sonder, some names there, and just to see that like, oh wow, that came from FounderFuel in Montreal. Yeah, that's the origin of it. Yeah, there's Transit Up and there's like bus.com. There's like, I could go
Willful,
on and on.
Benchside.
Yeah.
Oh man, don't stop.
Yeah.
Gonna say, keep it coming. Yeah, that is awesome. Again, the bona fides are right there. You guys have so many just names that you can point to and people will recognize it. I know you kind of talked about it and just naming some of these brands, but any specific highlights from past years of your cohort that you want to maybe discuss or you maybe want to just shine a light on? And maybe even just to get a little more pointed, is there a specific struggle that you think startup founders, well, maybe not struggle, but a challenge that you think FounderFuel has really, really, really been effective at helping founders overcome? Is it one specific thing or is it a broader thing?
Sure, I'll actually answer. We had Liren from Benchside in to meet with the cohort yesterday. We have these founder talks. We actually bring former founders back, and they talk about, it's not recorded, it's really an open mic AMA for the founders. What I hear resoundingly are like the network, definitely the network of we provide and access unequivocally the warm intros to we have a network of over 300 mentors who are founders, funders, angel investors, second, third time founders, builders of companies. So to get that dialed in, and we tailor match, 30 some mentors to each startup. So that network, it just accelerates, like if you were to build that on your own. So often I hear like founders, like you come to FounderFuel and what you would have banged around for 3-4 years outside on your own, you kind of get that in a 3-4 month period to really iterate very quickly. The other thing is how to storytell. That is something we teach a way to put together. It's not just a pitch for us, it's a roadmap to your business. So when people think about pitching, they think like, you have to have a TAM, and we work integrally to say like, why should people care about your business? Why should people believe you are the ones to solve it? And why should people join you? And we really dial into why should people care, believe, and join? And those are really the key parts of your business, because you have to have the street cred, the solving a problem that really matters. Why is it passionate to you? And then why are you the team to like, what do you know that no one else knows? And why do you believe so strongly that you know that? And getting through to those like proofs, not just qualitatively, but quantitatively, and then dialing into those insights are really what we work on with the founders that is quite significant. So I would say the network, definitely, and how to run a fundraising process. That was what came out often as well. Oftentimes people, especially startup founders I meet, they feel like as soon as an investor or an angel, whatever, wants to like meet them, that's the moment that you meet them. And we actually say like, you have to run a process. And when you're running it, ideally, it's like to hit a milestone, you've hit a milestone. And when you open a fundraise, you run the process. You're not half pregnant. Like there's no such thing as being half pregnant. You either run it and you run it well and you run it really tight. And that's how you get competitive term sheets. You close the round, you get the distraction, you get the money, and you build. And it's always about running tight processes so that you can bring the team and the founders' focus back into building the business. And it's not this half in, half out thing. So those are the things that I think are like the fundamentals. And I think, as Lisa mentioned, the founder development piece, people don't expect that. It's not something they'll ask for, but I would say that the last cohort and this cohort we bring in actually a friend from Boston, Ethan Shafir. He works at MIT. And this, I spent a lot of time in Boston actually. And so they come in and they actually help people reframe what teamwork, collaboration, how do you be for each other? How do you support and challenge? How do you listen deeply? And these are the things where you can put your ego aside to really think about, like, am I trying to be right, or do I want us to be successful? And it's really about understanding your own insights and how you show up in the world first. And that will underpin whether or not you're listening to customers properly, you're listening to the market, either you're evaluating competitors, like, are you being arrogant about things? Like, are you being stubborn about it? Should you or should you not listen to certain mentors? And these are the things that we're really dialing in, which we believe will successfully propel our founders above others through our program.
That's fantastic. It's funny. The aforementioned shirt I changed out of was my MIT Media Lab shirt before this. So I'm very, very happy to hear that you guys come down to Boston. We'll have to catch up IRL sometime. Going back to the point you made too about storytelling, I feel like that is incredibly powerful for founders, especially at the early stage. It's different from what we do at Boast, but I do see similarities in that we help founders kind of describe their R&D and just the work that they're putting into actual product development in terms that really, really emphasize their innovation, in terms that really, really make the case, on the one hand, for SR&ED funding or for R&D tax credits, but also to just be confident and proud of what they're doing and to really understand, okay, this is the technological advancement we're addressing. This is that technological uncertainty. So it's awesome to hear that there is a program in place where the storytelling does land as a key component there. And it's awesome to hear the many different ways you kind of attack that. That's so great. Now, talking specifically about this year's cohort and this upcoming demo day, it's coming up July 11th. What can we expect this year? And who are you most excited to see? I know you can't pick any favorites, but I mean, whether it's members of the cohort or just people in attendance, who are you looking forward to running into?
Well, I mean, of course, we're excited to have all 7 of our startups from this year's cohort take the stage this year. And so they come from they're working in various different industries. We have our article that we just released that really shares with everybody who they are and what they do. And so we have our teams Artemis, we have where they're focusing really on data solutions, Lease Simple that's looking at becoming kind of digital wallet for renters. I don't want to give too much away, but we do have 7 great companies that are going to be on stage. So I think folks who are going to come to the show, this is really why you're coming to the demo day, is to see who these amazing companies are, what they're looking to do to change the world, and learn more about their businesses. So that's one thing that I'm deeply excited to share. I think on the day of a demo day as well, one thing that a lot of folks enjoy coming for demo day is, again, the network. So we were talking about network before in the program. Well, this is another, element of the network that comes out too. And so this year, this is the first time that we've done this, but Real Venture has partnered with Panache Ventures and Inovia Capital as well for this program. And so we have all 3 firms that are going to be present during demo day, and all of our extensive networks that are invited to join us as well. So when we talk about that composition of those networks, we're talking about all the different mentors that we work with, all the different investors that we're working with, all of our portfolios that are invited to join us there as well, and all of the wonderful founders that are leading those companies too. And then, of course, we wouldn't have been able to have the presence within the community that we have without the support of other accelerators and community organizations as well. So I'm thinking about the administrative team at Notman House. We held a series of information sessions across Canada where we worked with organizations like 111, like Volta out in Halifax. We worked with Platform Calgary out in Calgary, Catalyst Commons in Waterloo, and then LSpark as well that we worked with in the Ottawa region. So a lot of different folks there who rallied with us. The Home Key as well in Vancouver. So that was actually my first trip to Vancouver. That was a lot of fun and getting to meet the folks out there. So it really is a very
That's when we met Anastasia as well.
And that's where we met Anastasia for the first time too. So it's really a great, diverse group of folks that are working in all different levels within this community. So I think this is a great gathering point here for individuals interested in just networking and meeting with all of these different players within the community. And of course, it is the launching event for Startup Fest. So we're right before Startup Fest. Startup Fest starts the following day, and it's Canada's largest startup event where folks working in the industry from all over Canada are going to be joining. So I think it's a great way to kickstart off this wonderful event and to meet with all of these different folks. Katie, do you have anything else that you would add?
Yeah, I would say you talk about demo day and the startups pitching is just the excuse to gather, like 100%. I think the companies are incredible and they're worth seeing, but I think the community all coming out in spades and FounderFuel's always been this catalyst for everyone to meet each other. We talk about the creative collisions, and how many founders have I heard that like, hey, I met my co-founder at an event at demo day, or I met someone, at your mentor or your whatever the things. We hold a lot of things for mentors, and mentors get to meet each other, and often they're, they'll co-invest or they'll come in. And so we're just giving a reason to spark all this. You never know who will meet where and what that'll lead to. And I think any excuse to kind of gel people and see what they come up with it's really quite so much magic to hear. And then we inspire. I know I've had founders in the last cohort literally tell me like they brought them to a demo day in 2013 and that inspired them to become an entrepreneur. And they said that one day they're going to be on that stage, and they were on the stage last time. And it's amazing to see just how one event can catalyze like a whole, generation of new founders to really strive to do what's best for themselves, but ultimately for the Canadian economy, for all of that we're doing here, and really pushing the innovation across. So I think, we'll see a lot of the government entities, their institutional investors also. I think it's a lot of place to be proud for all the incredible ingenuity and innovation that's coming from freaking Canada. It's awesome. It's not just Boston.
It's not just Boston. I get it.
Yeah.
That's so great to hear. Even when you had mentioned like our friends at Volta, our friends at 111, I'm like, my ears perked up just because I'm like, oh, I can put faces to those names. And to hear too that like, it's an excuse to get together. It's an excuse to see these people in person. Yes, material connections are made here that will make these innovations get off the ground and help get some of these startups into the next level. But actually getting into the community and seeing everybody, it's more than cherry on the sundae. I think.
And I think you make me think about like what's really key is I remember talking to some people in the US, because a lot of people, my friends are a lot in the US, and they're like, what do you mean 3 venture capital firms got together to put together an accelerator for? Because like right now the funding's, it's not easy right now for early stage funding, especially, with the economic climate right now. And I thought, how great is it that like John, Chris, and Mike Segelski, like these are the kind of the founders of the 3 firms, kind of said like, you know what, we're going to rally and we're going to like put aside any kind of competitive differences, and we're going to like inject capital and all this excitement into early stage, and let's inspire the next generation despite this economy, instead of like holding up in a hole and being afraid. It's like, let's blow the doors off of that. And I think I'm really proud to be part of that, because it's like, let's be unabashedly bold in a time, where it's not so, it's a little bit scary to be an entrepreneur. I'm sure their families are saying like, go get a job. Like I worked in the government for 8 years, and my mom, when I first joined Element, she's like, what do you mean? I joined this like, company, and then, but we grew from 40 to 550 people in a year and a half. Like, she's like, how do you even explain that? Like, it's really hard. So I think this is the moment. And we hear the great stories of like the last economic downturn, like in 2001 and 2008, like great companies emerged. They're super capital efficient. They're hungry, and they're looking for that edge. And I think that's what we see in our cohort now. And there's no better time to start a company.
Yeah. And to your point too, it usually goes the opposite way. Here in the US, 1 VC will turn into 3, not 3 coming together to support that early stage community. I love it. It's such a unique thing. And you guys are on the front lines of it. Speaking to that community point, I'm going to get a little self-centered here. Boast, we're an accelerated partner with FounderFuel. How did this relationship come together? If you guys could shine a light on that. You had mentioned our buddy Anastasia. She's my bestie here over at Boast. We're in lockstep. She keeps me honest on a lot of the stuff that I'm writing from the US seat, talking about Canada. Tell me about this relationship. Why Boast? How's it been working with the team to date? What does this relationship look like in practice?
Yeah, I'm happy to answer that question. It was serendipitous a little. I would say Boast reached out to us probably about 2 years ago now, just to reach out to Real Ventures, learn a little bit more about our portfolio companies, see if there would be a fit for your services or anything that you could do really to be able to support the portfolio. And at the time, we were putting together these webinars for our founders because it was still COVID, right? So we were still doing mainly webinars in terms of content creation for the portfolio. And when I met with Anastasia, I thought, oh, this, maybe we do a webinar on non-dilutive funding options for founders. And she jumped all over the idea. She was like, this sounds great. And then when I learned more about Anastasia's background, having ran an accelerator program herself out west too, and it was really clear that this was a passion area for her, and that this is something that she, is devoting her life to at the moment, of really being somebody very keenly involved within the ecosystem and wanting to ensure that founders have access to all of the non-dilutive funding possible and be aware of all of these options. So there's a great synergy, I think, just from that initial meeting and meeting with her, and then meeting some other members of the team for that initial co-creation of a webinar together. And then after that, I discussed with her a little bit about FounderFuel and what it was, what we were all about. And there was clear interest on both parties' parts to want to take that collaboration further. And so at the time, we didn't have our next cohort planned. So I let her know, I'll reach out to you as soon as we have a date, a launch date. And if this is something that you want to get involved in at that point, let's talk more about it. And so once we did get that date, I reached out to her. And of course, she immediately was like, yes, let's talk more about it. And so what we saw right away was this shared value of community building and support. And that is really something that we look for in any partner that we work with at FounderFuel. Are you for the community? Are you coming here because you just want to put a logo on a sign? Or do you really want to roll your sleeves up, work with our companies, and not only the companies of this cohort, but really of any previous cohort, or frankly, any company that needs help that reaches out to us. We're a pretty open bunch here when it comes to lending a hand. And that value was reflected in spades in all of our conversations, not only with Anastasia, but afterwards when we met with Joshua and Nicholas from the sales team. And then later on, your lead of sales, Carlos, we met him at the launch party, actually, for FounderFuel. And so it was clear that this is a value that's really a value that's throughout the organization at Bose too. And I think that's what made this partnership a success, or at least from my perspective, it's been a great success. It's been great to be able to work with the Bose team, get to know more of your team members, and to see you guys interacting with the portfolio companies as well. We had office hours and gotten fantastic feedback from our founders saying how helpful these sessions were, following up on some non-dilutive funding options that were maybe proposed. And I think one of the fun facts as well is that Bose actually wanted to demo one of the portfolio companies' products there too. So there was that took place.
Actually, it's signed
as well. Oh, they signed. Yeah. So
yeah.
Bose is actually a client of one of our portfolio companies, of one of the companies, Quack, who everybody's going to discover during demo day. And so I think, that is why we wanted to partner with Bose, why we're proud to partner with Bose. And it's just been a joy working with the entire team at Bose, and yourself included now, Paul, on this project. It was actually Nicholas and Joshua who were like, hey, what do you think about joining a podcast? And I was like, I don't know, tell me more. And I think this is just great collaboration opportunities.
Absolutely. And yeah, not to make it all about Anastasia again, but she's very indicative of your average boaster. She's a founder herself. She has been in the ecosystem for a while, and she's still hungry, and she's still very excited about it. She loves actually building things. Like, we live in that sweet spot with companies that are really excited about the art of the possible and really getting to that point where, sure, we might still be working with an MVP. We haven't finalized everything. We're not a unicorn yet, but we are having a blast getting it together. And we really do see the innovation here. We really do see the potential. So that's awesome to hear. And yeah, and it's been fantastic partnering with you guys. I'm glad that Nicholas, Joshua, and Carlos all got their shout out here, because they are working their butts off and they really believe in what you guys are doing. And I'm so happy that they could help make this connection today. All right. Thanks again, Katy Yam and Lisa Séguin, for joining me on What the Tech. Before we sign off, I want to hammer home again. If you're in Montreal on July 11th, FounderFuel Demo Day will be happening at 4 p.m. Eastern Time at Palais des Congrès de Montréal. You guys can check my accent on that one, but find FounderFuel or Bose AI on LinkedIn for your link to register.
Yeah, come to Montreal, come to Startup Fest, come to FounderFuel Demo Day, have a great time, and come meet the community and what makes Canada startup so much fun. Everyone is welcome.
I couldn't have said it better myself. I think Katy summed it up.
And thank you, listeners, for joining us. Please subscribe to What the Tech from Bose AI wherever you get your podcasts.